two very talented streamers. We have.
That's very generous of you.
We don't tell that about every guest, I'm sure. The idea of this segment, I think you are all aware, but let's repeat for everyone that's new coming. We are trying to get to know our fellow streams, get to know what they use, what they think, what's happening outside of the camera, what's happening inside their heads. So welcome, guys. Maybe for those of you that do not know what you do in streams, I would ask you to present yourself, tell the audience what you do, what's your streaming summary. Maybe start with you, New Future Fantasy.
Right. Well, I started just with my acoustic guitar, singing my own original songs, just that sort of psychedelic folk, I would describe them as. And then while I was doing that, I had a little bit of success with that. And while I was doing that, I got to know people on Twitch, and I noticed a lot of people were using loopers. And I thought, oh, they look fun. And also some of my fans said, you should get a looper, Nufu. And so then I got a looper and then really got into that, and then incorporated looping into my one of those Boss floor loopers, and incorporated that, doing acoustic loops and harmonies and hand drums and percussion. And then I had some fun doing that for a few months. And then I noticed that people were using the Push 2 and the Ableton and getting these groovy sounds with synthesizers and drum machines. And I thought, I want a bit of that. So I got hold of that Ableton and Push 2 and incorporated that into my sound. So where I am now is I have these disparate parts. One part sort of psychedelic folk songs, psychedelic acoustic folk songs. Another part sort of acoustic looping, doing vocal harmonies, and the third part, which is this sort of conceptual synth stuff. It's conceptual synth, wild out there psychedelic music, incorporating a lot of electric guitar, and so there's three separate sort of ideas there, and at the moment I'm trying to sort of fuse them into one glorious symphonic kind of protean evolutionary new future sound of all those bits put together seamlessly.
That sounds about right.
Cool.
Yeah.
How about you, Elysian?
Well, I have dabbled in music all of my life, and not necessarily committed to anything until kind of recently. I really enjoy doing noise. Noise is my primary mode. And I'll also do, I like to build weird drum loops. That's about the most normal thing that I do. But on top of that, my one acoustic instrument is the auto harp, which is an instrument from the American South. And so I'm either doing folk music or things that make you want to hide under your desk. And that's basically it. I'll also do tarot readings on stream. So if you drop in on me, you can get a short tarot reading. And I have puppets. You have puppets.
And if I'm not wrong, we have a special guest today. Yes, what? I need. Can you introduce us to this special guest?
Where am I? Am I dead? Oh. Hi. My name is Sherbface Coneford. I'm really high.
Then you're in the right place, because today is Safety Fest, and I'm guessing everyone in the chat is high. Because this is Safety Fest.
Oh wow, dude. Okay, cool.
Twitch is my drug. Twitch is our drug, really. We're just high on the interaction and the creativity prevalent in this refined, this esteemed surrounding milieu.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, one of the questions that is probably obligated to ask today is what role does cannabis plays in your compositions, in your streams, in your way of approaching art?
I did spend a lot of years smoking cannabis, and certainly my musical development, a lot of it was done on cannabis. We used to, back in the day, we would just sit and smoke spliffs and play guitar and have big psychedelic jams with the echo pedal, and mostly guitar playing. And it was all generally done under the influence of cannabis or even stronger stuff. But for the last few years, I'm completely uncannabised. I don't even drink coffee or take alcohol or do anything anymore. And I find that to have the focus and the application to do this streaming and the complexities of it and the artistic complexities of bringing together my previously described artistic vision, I don't think I could do that if I was stoned. I think it would just all be too much, and I'd just end up drifting through life just playing guitar in a corner, which I did for many years. But through doing that, through drifting through life playing guitar in a corner while I was stoned, I learned a huge amount that I'm using now about music theory, about how to play the guitar, harmony, chords, all kinds of things. Just this whole gamut of musical knowledge that I now apply. So that's my answer.
Okay.
Hey.
Yeah, I guess that's a common point for a lot of streamers or for a lot of artists, just getting like a big cannabis. How can I put it? Time, like you use it for a long time, and then it's a very easy to quit habit. So I've heard that more than once.
I'm very grateful to cannabis, because when I was younger, I was very wild, and I was determined to get smashed out my head one way or another. And I feel cannabis saved me from alcoholism, which for me would have been far worse. And it was basically the softest option. And also I found on cannabis, I could play guitar. Whereas when you're drunk, when I was drunk, I couldn't play guitar. I wasn't really interested in playing guitar. Whereas when I had cannabis, what I liked to do was to go by myself with my guitar in my little Porter studio and just go into my own world and just create music for hours on end until the cannabis run out, basically. And then I'd just sit there waiting to get a bit more money to buy some more and do it all again. So cannabis was actually a really, in some ways, a great, a real friend to me. It really helped me a lot and saved me from far greater evils.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful to it. And I feel it should be legal. And I feel the state has no business to intrude on what people do in their private life, especially the means when it comes to consuming cannabis.
How's the legislation of where you're from? How's legally things
in the UK? It's illegal, although the police aren't that heavy on it. If you get caught with a bit on the street, half the time they just take it away, or you just get something called a caution, which you don't have to go to court. It's just a police caution. It's just a sort of legal slap on the wrist, but technically it's illegal. And certainly if you're dealing it, you will probably go to prison for a year or two. And if the state wants to, it will use it as an excuse, and they'll still come in and raid your house at 6 a.m. So it's a really bad situation. It's a bad situation, I feel, because cannabis is certainly, in my experience, alcohol is a far more dangerous intoxicant, and it does far more damage, not only to the individual but also to society as a whole. Because, say for instance, most domestic violence is done under the influence of alcohol. And once I started consuming cannabis, I thought I gave up alcohol completely, because I thought, I don't want it. This is far better, and I can play guitar on this and make songs on my little studio. So it was a great friend to me, and it's better for society as a whole.
Okay.
That's
What
my
about you, Elysian?
Well, the short answer is I live in Massachusetts. So the long answer is that when I was younger, I was actually straight edge, and I was not interested in doing anything. As I learned more about the medicinal and therapeutic uses of cannabis, I became a lot more interested in using it. So when I moved here, it was still illegal. And so I had to do that whole thing. And a couple of years ago, I got a medical cannabis card. and it has done complete wonders for me. I have ADD and I have pretty severe anxiety, and that really inhibits my ability to do anything creative. So being able to use cannabis medicinally to treat that actually opens me up a lot more to do more creative things with my music, makes me worry less about what I'm doing and if it sounds stupid. So, and also it helps me in my professional career too, because I can calm down enough to be able to, have interactions with people, because otherwise I just seize up.
Wow, that's really good. That is really good.
Nice.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Moving on into a musical path, one of the questions that everyone was prompting to be asked on these streams was what instrument or what synthesizer, what piece of equipment do you use a lot? Which is the core part of your work when you stream or when you create music?
Oh, well, for me, clearly it's the guitar. That's the instrument I've been playing since I was a little child. And synths are only a new thing. I've only had the Ableton for about 6 months. Although for the previous 10 years, I used to make songs on Logic, Apple Logic, and I would use synths in there in a background role. These were pre-recorded songs. But yeah, the guitar is my main instrument. All sorts of guitars, from acoustic to complete psychoelectric guitar, sort of Jimi Hendrix meets Stockhausen sort of thing. So the guitar's wonderful. You can do so much of it. But I love synths as well. I love drums. I love singing as well. So singing is a big part of what I do, vocalization. But if I had to name one, it's the guitar.
How about you, Elysian?
Well, I, except for my acoustic instrument, which is very large, I restrict myself to things that are small enough to fit in my pocket. I just like teeny tiny things. So my 2 babies are right here. My little Korg Monotron, which it does most of my work for me.
Nice.
And the Korg Volga sample. So these are my 2 main toys that I use. Like, I will play with feedback. I have an electric kazoo. I'm in front of my weird junk drawer of all sorts of weird stuff, but primarily it's those 2 things, and vocal distortion and a kazoo.
Beta Units here on the chat wants to know if that's the version 2 of Volca.
No, that's version 1. I've had it for a while.
Nice. You were gonna say something? A new view?
I'll just say I'm really looking forward to hearing you, Elysian. I use elements of noise and distortion and feedback in my work, but it's sort of contained. It's sort of just little bits here and there. Yeah, I don't go all out on it. Yeah, I like to contain it with an overall kind of consonant kind of framework. But I do like to go into areas of noise and distortion and feedback. Yeah.
Cool. I will vary it. Like earlier this week, I did a pure noise set. Today, I'm going to be doing more looping with some noise elements. So I mix it up. Really,
Twitch has been an education for me, especially the last 6 months. All this sort of synth things and all this noise stuff and this conceptual music. It's not new to me. I've always been aware of it, but it's now taking a much larger place in my life, mainly because of my interactions and meeting people like you on Twitch. And it's fantastic, really. It's really just opening up my music and my life so much more. And I think the noise stuff really is the new future music in some ways.
I have a personal take on noise that it's done something for me personally that I wasn't expecting.
Mm-hmm.
The freedom to basically do whatever I want. I also have autism. So as an autistic person, being able to basically stim with noise is a huge stress reliever for me. So that's why I put a lot of my musical energy into that.
It's a catharsis from the noise of normal life, you could say. A release. Yeah, it's wonderful. There's a place for it. I think, like, you know, like sometimes I like to strum a pretty chord and sing a nice little poetical melody, whereas other times I just want to turn all the guitars up and put on the distortion and just go all out noise, or do something on the on with the synths, just go and it's just, you know, there's a place for that. There's no other way you can express those sort of emotions than that kind of noise thing.
The traditional question is also, what's the difference between music and noise? Where does the line separate those?
Oof, that's a tough one. I always think, I saw a video once of this guy and he was going, "What is art? What is art?
Oh, no.
What is art?
Oh,
what
no.
is art?"
Exactly. The answer is exactly.
What is I always used to think music was kind of mathematically organized sound that had an emotion, that had an emotional as an emotional language, but it appears it's a bit broader than that.
Whenever I'm in a party and someone starts asking what is art, I usually go the other way, because I know
it's tough. It's a tough.
I went to art school, and I can tell you that it's very you can't actually put a boundary on what art is. If you try to, you will make artists very mad.
It's something to do with expression, isn't it? But then I don't know. Like say if I just have a paroxysm and go, is that art or not? It's kind of how it's presented or something. It could be art, couldn't it?
Yes, it can.
I think that anything that you put any even small amount of thought and creative energy into and present it could be art.
Maybe it's the way you present it, but then if something's not presented, it can still be art. It's just not being presented. It's
absolutely
a tough question, that, isn't it? That is the question. Any answers? Let me know.
I had a setup answer that was, art is whatever an artist does. So there you go.
Absolutely. But what's an artist?
Oh, sorry, I have to take a call.
I see.
Yeah. I love it. For me, art, I consider myself primarily an artist, as opposed to, you know, music is just more of an expression of an art and expression of my art. And so, and for me, it's a calling. It's just something I can't live without. Just have to do it, because otherwise my life would just be not worth living.
Yeah. One definition of what an artist is would be someone that cannot stop themselves from doing art. That's a very accurate definition.
That is me. Yeah. Although again, the plot thickens, because as well as that, I do have to apply a bit of self-discipline, because I'm naturally a lazy person. I think most artists are. And so I do sort of apply a degree of self-discipline to get things done, like songs. You know, I lie in bed and I have these fantastic compositions in my head, but then I have to apply to myself a degree of self-discipline to actually start myself, to actually get up and plug everything in and do the technicals and work out the chords and work out the synth patches. So I kind of... what am I saying? I do have a compulsion to do it, but at the same time, it's not overriding at times. I have to force myself to do it. So it's a discipline as well.
Yep. Yeah, but they say that art and laziness usually go together, which is like a curse.
It's true in my case, but the older I get, the less lazy I get, because I just love it so much, and it's just worth the effort. Then you see, the more you go into it, the more answers you get, the more questions it throws up, because you go into it and you create something, and every time I've created something, while I'm creating it, I've got to do it, and I've got the vision, and I really want to create it, and I think how great it will be when I create it. And as I'm trying to create it, it's full of frustration and problems, technical problems, artistic problems. But then once I've created it, I've superseded it. And I think, I've finished with that. Now I want to do the next one. And I'm not really interested in the previous thing I've created. So it's a mindless sort of thing that non-artists don't understand. You know, people think, well, why bother doing that? You know, have an easy life. There's easier ways to earn money than doing art or music, isn't there?
For sure. No, if you like money, art is not the place to go.
No, no.
One of the topics that touches every one of us, including the folks that are in the chat, is the Golden Shrimp Guild, the guild that actually put us up together as a group. So the next question I have is, how did you approach the guild? How did you know someone that was here? Did you saw someone that was here? How was your journey? Let's start with you, Fu.
Again, I just I was doing my previous stuff, as mentioned, the folky stuff, but then I got into synth stuff and just gradually got to know more and more synth people, and the whole thing just gradually come into my life. It was just a gradual thing, and then they invited me to join, and I joined. So it's been it's sort of gradually kind of diffused and permeated into my life, and now I know all these synth people, and my music has changed completely. So it's got a gradual thing over the last 6 months. Really, everything's changed.
Nice. How about you, Elysian?
I ended up here entirely by accident. There was an invite posted in another server I was in, and I followed it, and I was like, oh, where am I? Oh, okay. And then I started discovering that a bunch of artists that I was already following on Twitch were there, and then it all just sort of clicked, and I was like, wait, I can be one of the cool kids now, yay! And so I started getting more involved. I started easing my way into the double Dutch jump rope of streaming on Twitch raids, and here I am.
Nice. I guess I always say the same thing, but I guess one of the most valuable things about the guild is that everyone's backstory is different. Like, everyone got here on different terms, and that makes it a group effort because everyone gets involved in a different situation here.
It's really stimulating. Everything, like I say, everything's changed the last 6 months. My whole life has changed. My whole music has changed. It's incredibly exciting, really, for me.
Yeah, I'm finding myself feeling a lot more validated, I guess, and also encouraged to grow, because doing things live, there's no going back from that. And so I can't, procrastinate and say, oh, this isn't good enough, I'm not going to share it. Oh, well, too late.
It's brilliant, isn't it? Sort of sink or swim situation.
Absolutely.
New Future explained that he has a background in live music. Do you have a background in live music as well, Elysian?
Not so much, no. I actually did absolutely nothing live until the past year. I have a terrible confession to make. I still can't play and sing at the same time. I literally only started being able to do that last night. So I am not a live performer, unless it's noise soundscapes, and I'm just throwing myself into it and ending up basically in an altered state of consciousness and not caring. So only recently would I say I do anything live. And it's because I jumped out of my comfort zone and just started doing it.
Okay. And talking about streaming, there's one question that always has fun answers, and that's what has been your worst stream? Do you have a special stream that you remember where something special happened that ruined everything? Well, that has happened to all of us, but has that happened to you?
The electricity in our flat went off. That was a bit in the middle of a fairly good stream, so that was a bit stressful. But then we managed to get this neighbour round who knew how to fix it, and he fixed it, and then I just started again. That was a bit stressful.
Okay.
That's it, really. It's all been pretty good, really. Like the early streams when I only had 1 or 2 viewers, or sometimes 0 viewers, they weren't that stressful, because I just thought, well, this is practice just to learn what I'm doing. And then it's just everything's gradually just got better and better. So I've not really had a bad stream, really, to be honest.
That's a nice way of putting it. Yeah. How about you, Elysian?
When I tried to sing live without sufficient vocal filtering. I deleted that.
Okay.
That's about it.
How about your best stream? Have you ever had a one stream that was like perfect?
Oh, you know, every time I finish up a stream, except for that one, I feel like, wow, that was really good, and I want to go back and rewatch it. And it's never as good as I thought it was in my brain. But the one that I did this week, I was really happy with, where I was just doing pure noise. It started off with just, you know, feedback loops, and by the end of it, I was yelling meow into my kazoo. So because there were no expectations, I feel like it's my best.
That's a nice way. I used to have a band called Low Expectations. That's a nice way of approaching streaming or everything that you do that it's new to you. Just not lowering the bar. Frustration comes from the place where you put your expectations, basically. So that's a nice way. How do you guys have a concept when you do streaming? I mean, you talked about what you do, but do you have like an inner concept for you? Do you have a plan? Do you have some kind of default action where you go, well, I'll try to create an improv, and over that I will create something? How do you approach the creative process in that way?
Well, I've got my songs that were already written, so they're completely planned. They go exactly the same every time, and then when I'm looping from the songs, I just make it up, just completely improvised. And on all the other streams that I do, when I'm looping and with the synth stuff and with the push, it's all pretty much improvised. Although I might have a bit of a thought before. Generally, what tempo I'm going to use or what beats. Sometimes I go for a faster techno beat, or recently I've liked a sort of slower reggae swing style beat. But generally, it's all improvised. Other than the songs, everything's just made up as I go along, which I really like because it gives everything an edge and a vitality.
Yeah, and you prefer long streams, so planning that should be kind of painful. Your streams go for 4 hours, right?
Yes. Generally, it takes me an hour or two to kind of warm up. When I'm singing, it takes my voice about 90 minutes to warm up. And also the same with just getting the sounds going and the guitar going and the synths and the layers and that. I find after about an hour or 90 minutes, I'm really starting to get warmed up and the ideas are really starting to flow. So it can be quite a painful process before that because it's trudging through trying to get the flow, and you kind of can't force it, but it always comes eventually. Sometimes even longer than that. Sometimes after 2 or 3 hours, it comes. So, that's why I tend to go on a long time. Well, plus I just love doing it. Once you start, you don't want to stop, do you?
Yes, that's true. How about you, Elysian?
I do varying levels of planning. Sometimes I'll have a concept going in, because sometimes I'll like pre-plan some loops or some samples. Sometimes I'll just go completely into it blind. Sometimes I'll have a concept based around an idea or a single piece of sound. For example, a couple of weeks ago, I was streaming on Easter, so I decided I was going to stick with something like hymnal themed. And so I grabbed the melody of a couple of hymns and just had it stock in there, and I just looped over it. And there was another time, I don't have a recording of this, but if you go to firstsound.org, there is a sound sample that was recorded using a device made out of a human cadaver ear.
Wow.
And so I took that and I edited it into a couple different versions and tuned it and just made an entire track out of that. So I'll play with just about anything. I'll also use samples from the Alan Lomax archive, which is a really interesting ethnomusicologist who did a lot of field recordings. So that's usually what I'll draw on if I'm going to have a concept.
That sounds fascinating. All sounds really interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Big shout out to the mods of this channel that are doing their work properly. Talking about the chat, if any of you folks have a question for today's guests, feel free to drop it on the chat. I am looking at it here on my phone. So if you have anything that you would like to ask, please drop it. This is an open format, so any contribution will be thanked. One question that arose the last time we did this was the backstory of the names we use. So we'll start with New Future Fantasy. Why are you what's a New Future Fantasy, and why are you the New Future Fantasy?
Well, originally it was just a lyric that I come in one of my songs, this sort of flow of consciousness song that I was writing, and it was just a poetical line. And I remember, and I thought, oh, that's a good name, New Future Fantasy. And then I just sort of think, well, I'll use that as a name. And only afterwards, I just thought it sounded good. New Future Fantasy, it sort of alliterates, it sort of flows. And afterwards, I sort of thought, actually, that my whole life has been a New Future Fantasy. Because especially since I've given up cannabis, bring it back to that, I've kind of lived in this sort of self-indulgence of future fantasies and being a lazy person. And always think, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. You know, when I learn to play this, I'm going to do that. Or when I get my singing right, I'm going to do this. Or when I learn to master this particular technique on the guitar, I'm going to do this. Always in the future. And so I thought, well, the idea of new future fantasies, I've always had these new future fantasies. So the idea of new future fantasy, for once in my life, getting it together and actually making it happen for real. So that's basically, for me, what new future fantasy is actually making all these dreams that I have happen for real.
That has a name, right? Self-fulfilled prophecy, right?
Yes, that's really good, actually. I've never thought of that. But to make it a true actual reality, to make my new future fantasy a true actual reality, to turn them from indulgences into actual real, palpable, workable things that are really happening. And I've succeeded in that to a degree, because I've got my stream going, I've got a moderate amount of success, and I've got people that like my stuff. So I have actually succeeded in a very small way, but in a way that's still very satisfactory.
Nice.
So
how about, sorry?
So that's. I'll be interested in you, Elysianparoxysm. That is a name and a half, isn't it?
Yes, actually, in the pre-interview, I had to take a tutorial on how to pronounce it. So I guess the meaning will be as interesting.
Okay, well, my name comes from two previous things that I combined. I have a background in art. I used to draw comics. And I had a character who was a rock star named Apollonios Elysium. And he was basically like the guy who had to be a self-centered, egotist, drunk guy, so I didn't have to be. So I like channeled a lot of feelings into that character. And then I stopped working on comics, mainly because I have a chronic pain condition, and it's hard to like keep up with drawing. And the joke was that his band was called Hysterical Paroxysm, which you should absolutely Google. It's fascinating. So I just combined the two, and it sounds cool, so I went with it.
I think you've got a real talent for names. What was that? Apollonius Elysium?
Yes.
Great name.
Yeah, yes.
That's a great name.
That's my Instagram handle also. So
that's a great name.
Oh, and that brings me to my next question. If you guys have something to plug, if you have a schedule when you stream every week, please tell us about it so people in the chat can follow you and get to know you.
What am I doing? I'm not sure, actually. There's something happening tomorrow. Tomorrow is on Cultural Overtones. I'm streaming there sometime in the evening. Oh no, midnight British summertime. And then Friday I'm doing a jam with VJ PCAT. That's happening at 11 p.m. On on VJP Cat stream, and then Saturday I'm doing on an Archaic Electros raid train at 9 p.m. I think, and then Sunday I'm doing GSG. Woohoo! GSG Sunday, Shrimp Sunday at some time. That's in my diary. It's all mad. It's just so much happening, and other than that, I just stream when I feel like it. Sometimes in the morning, sometimes in the evening. It's woohoo. It's great.
How
So
do you,
that's my
Elysian?
Well, I try to keep myself to one stream a week because I have a very busy, very heavy job, and I use this as my little escape, and I don't want it to like take up too much of my time. But I usually stream on Mondays at around 10 p.m., sometime between 10 and 12. And I'm getting more into doing Shrimp Sunday, and I'm gonna probably be alternating Sunday and Monday on every week. And I'm doing a stream at 11 Eastern, so in about an hour, I'll be going on with all of my little doodads and making strange noises for you. So that's what I've got going on my schedule.
Oh, I'll be there.
Nice.
Look forward to meet land.
And if anyone wants to visit our two guests' profile, their handles are right down below. So please go follow them and go take a look at what they do. They are both very talented, and they wouldn't be here if they weren't. Someone in the chat is asking, how do we put up these new streams? So this is a perfect time to explain it. We are doing this in Discord, in the GSG Discord. So if you want to be part of this, or if you want to contribute, we're still working out the format, and as you have seen today, also the technical aspects. So if you want to contribute to this, or if you want to be part of these streams we are doing, usually we're trying to do this at the beginning of raid trains. Today was a little exception. Beta Units started the safety first stream because it's his stream, but today we'll take in the second spot. So the first artist of every raid train gets to have a little raid of their own. So if you're interested in contributing anyway, just go to the Golden Shrimp Discord, check out the Crustacean channel, and check out the other channels as well, because there's a lot going on in there. And if anyone does not know where the Discord is, please ask on the chat. We have a lot of moderators today. Exactly. Beta Units is saying the same thing. Perfect. Let's talk moderation. That was one of the subjects that came up in this stream. Do you guys moderate? Do you have mods? How do you handle your interaction with the chat when you stream?
Well, I've been very lucky. I've got some good mods. My main mod is Venusberg, and she's a super mod, really. She really handles everything very slickly. I had another mod who I've recently lost for a reason I don't know. He just completely ignores me now, so I won't go much into that. And I've got a few other sort of people that come in. Penguin Superhero comes in. She does modding. Lord Viti, and also the Johnny Bot 2000 is modding, and Kashaka is recently joined. So I really just sit back, and they do a hell of a lot. It's fantastic. I can just concentrate on the music, and they handle the chat, and they make the place a warm, inviting, fun place to be. So that's a kind of whole another side of the stream that they handle, the mods handle. Well, I just concentrate on the music really and do a little bit of chat. So that's absolutely fantastic. I'm really grateful to them. They take everything to a new level. Yeah,
Venusberg is one of the top mods. We all love her. How about you, Elysian?
I only have one mod who mods for me. Mostly people behave themselves in my chat. I'm open to volunteers. I always like help. I can do it. No, you can't. But I could use a couple extra hands. If anybody wants to help me out, you can send me a DM. But for the most part, people behave themselves in my channel, and I haven't had any problems. And the way that I construct things, I can keep a pretty close eye on the chat too. So I can multitask fairly well.
Okay.
Unless I have a puppet.
And we haven't talked to your cone as much as we could have. Do you want to bring him, her? I don't know their pronoun.
What?
Sure.
Oh, hey, I didn't see you there.
Hello.
Hi.
Can you introduce yourself to our audience, Mr. Cone?
I'm Sherbface Coneford. Is that right? Yes. Oh, right. Oh, I forgot.
Your own name.
Thank you.
Are you related to Safety Fest's mascot, which is also a cone?
He's my cousin.
Oh, so it's in the family. We keep things in the family. That's nice.
Yeah. Your mustache is crooked, buddy. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Wow.
It must be. It must.
On TV.
It must be hard to shape that mustache, given that you don't have hands.
What? I don't have hands.
And that's Mr. Convoy. Beautiful. Yeah, we don't want to get too political, so we had to drop the cone there. Once again, if anyone in the chat has any questions, we had 8 minutes. We're about to finish. We're doing a little longer today. We're trying to do a little longer format because everyone just said 30 minutes was too short. So I hope you guys are enjoying yourself. Thanks to everyone on the chat that is making this very dynamic. And once again, if any of you have any questions for our guests.
Look, what are some of your musical inspirations? That's a good question, isn't it?
Oh yes, Mitchell Leonard. He actually made the question about he provided the question about the avatar name's backstory. So he's a good contributor. So what are your musical inspirations? Let's start with Nufu.
Wax lyrical for hours on that. Okay, my Mozart's operas, Wagner's operas, Stevie Wonder, Eric Clapton, Jimi Hendrix. That's a pretty good one, isn't it? That's a pretty good, like, say, take Jimi Hendrix and combine it with Stockhausen. Mixing Stevie Wonder's voice, the Beatles for their songwriting, things like that. Quite conventional and conservative, really, my inspirations. They're artists that I've just adored and just worship, people like that, yeah? Really, what I want to do is a modern version of what Wagner did in his operas, which is create this Protean kind of poetry expressed in musical idiom that is just flowing through and continually changing, yet self-referencing. And if I can mix in the tunefulness of Mozart and the brilliance of Stevie Wonder's vocals and the quirky creativity of the Beatles and the psycho guitar of Jimi Hendrix, plus with the clean, neat phrasing of Eric Clapton, I'd be happy. That's the plan.
We were talking about low expectations, and I don't know if
they're pretty high, aren't they? Yeah. What else? Oh yeah. Also the textures of Bach. Yeah, the textures and the emotional punch of Beethoven, just for good measure.
Okay.
And also mixing in the philosophy of Carl Jung, which is huge. I adore Carl Jung.
That's a lot, man.
Wow.
So the unconscious sort of archetypal unconscious thing, all expressed through musical sound. So that's the plan.
Okay, good luck with that. That's a lot.
Yeah, very much.
How about you, Elysian?
So my biggest musical influences are Coil. I love Coil. And Skinny Puppy, and Kraftwerk. Kraftwerk being my favorite because
I forgot about them.
I love them so much because they actually are very successfully minimalist, and
Kraftwerk are wonderful. I adore them.
Everything they do is just pure joy and wonder at the world, and I wish I was that positive. So I try to take inspiration from that, but my stuff tends to take a dark and weird turn instead. Other than that, there's a touch of pretty much anything like mid-90s industrial. That's why Skinny Puppy is in there. Their earlier stuff, though, is really great. I'm going to go see them in 2 days, and I'm really excited. It's specifically Nivik Ogre's vocal processing is something I aspire to, and someday I'll get there, and then I won't be afraid to actually use my voice during my stream. Other than that, let me think. Like, those are really the main ones. Like, if I was going to condense it down, those would be the ones that I probably look up to the most.
Nice.
I don't know any of them except Kraftwerk, who are, I think they've been hugely influential, Kraftwerk as well. Huge influence on music. Yeah. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, you can tell they are great artists because even now they are always doing something new and disruptive. And they've been playing for 40 years or something like that.
They make it sound so easy, yet what they're doing is extremely difficult to do.
Absolutely.
To get right, but it all sounds out. You think it's just a few little synths and a few little drum patterns, but I've actually attempted to make pieces in the style of Kraftwerk a few years ago, and I just couldn't do it.
It's really hard.
Yeah, to make that, because everything is so neatly done and so nicely put. They're absolute genius, a huge influence on so many bands.
We were trying to define art earlier, and I remember someone once told me a great artist makes something very difficult look like very simple.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's like ballet. I think of Kraftwerk as like synth ballet because it's incredibly difficult but looks effortless.
Yeah, it sounds easy, doesn't it? Yeah.
But then when you try to replicate it, you just can't.
Yeah.
Well, I couldn't, or even do my own version of it. I just ended up putting too much. It just ended up sounding a mess.
Yeah, I always do too much.
But Kraftwerk, they never sound a mess. Everything is really neat and economical.
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed that a lot of great music has a certain economy about it. Even Bach's pieces, if you listen properly, there's actually it sounds rich, but there's actually an economy, which is why everything sounds so coherent and congruous.
Yeah, I recently saw Sting in an interview saying that music now is minimized, and when you think about new artists, they don't even have drums. They just use like little drum kicks and little snares, like put in very specific places. But there's the reverb sound of the room that doesn't exist anymore in modern music.
Yeah, well, things are always changing, aren't they? But to make something like that into something that sounds good is great. Is very difficult.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
would imagine. I tend to throw everything into my music.
Yes. Okay, we're about to close this stream. Thanks everyone. Thanks to our guests for coming along. Thanks to everyone in the chat. Thanks for putting up with the things we are still managing here, the technical aspects, the visual aspects and everything. This is going, every time we do this, it's going a little bit better, but bear with us. This is a new experiment. It's going pretty well. I think the streams are interesting, but the things happen. We have a cone today. That's a first. We've never had a cone. I've been doing journalism for 15 years and I've never interviewed a cone, so that's a first for me also as well. We're gonna go to Mel Joanne's stream. I'm gonna prepare the raid, but before that, I would like you to pick one or two streamers that have gotten you into streaming, like someone that you saw that you can recommend to our audience that got you into streaming. Like you saw this person and you said, wow, this is how things are done on Twitch.
Definitely Neon Void. Neon Void was the reason I got this push to, or one of the main reasons, yeah. He was huge influence on me. I saw him and I thought, right, I said, I'm going to buy a push and get Ableton. So there was like £1,500 of my money, my savings just gone. So that big shout out for him, Neon Void.
Shout out to Neon Boy. He's an inspiration to all of us. How about you, Elysian?
There are two streamers that I really personally respect, and they're very different. But Loopsy the Clown is one of my favorites. He's incredibly weird. He made me like clowns That's saying something. And Toto Robin is actually in the chat right now, and she's a Massachusetts local, does something completely different than I do, but combines art and music in a way that I really appreciate.
Yeah, Toto Robin is brilliant as well. Again, a really nice economy of sound that she creates.
Absolutely.
And a very pretty, in contrast to a lot of the synth people, they're creating this big noise, and there's anything wrong with that, but she sort of does the opposite and creates a very pretty, twee, neat sound. Very beautiful, yeah.
Absolutely.
Shout out to both of them. Shout out to Toto, who's helping actually moderating today. So thanks to her. And
there's loads of great people, really, on Twitch that have inspired me. There's loads, really. It's fantastic. It's really such a vibrant and creative community. It's really exciting, and we're all making it happen. All us three and all of the people in the chat, we're all part of making this happen. It's really completely new and completely brilliant. I feel.
Indeed. Thank you very much. Thanks to our guests. We're gonna go to Mel Joan. Happy Safety Fest, everyone, and enjoy. We have 48 hours of great streams, so I'm just gonna rate and see you on the other side, everyone.
Bye.